about a specific malware analysis technique that focuses on using timeline visualization. Now, I know some folks like Hal Pomeranz that use timelines to do malware analysis. And I know some other people that use timelines to do visualization. But I don't really know anybody that melds those two things together, especially not from an analysis standpoint. To me, the analysis is especially important, especially when you're dealing with situations where you don't know what it is you're looking for. Not who, what, when, why, where, how. You just know that you have to find the proverbial bad stuff, okay? In those types of situations, the most helpful thing from a timeline perspective, I find, is one of the soup to nuts timelines with log to timeline. Unfortunately, this means that you're risking making your eyes bleed looking through millions of lines of entries in that timeline, and they may even fall out and roll across the floor eventually. I don't want to do that. So I use a visualization technique to help me drill into it. It's also helpful when you don't have a lot of resources. Enterprise-wide incident response platforms, malware analysis platforms, things like that. That's actually what my boss and I found ourselves in last year when our data loss prevention system let us know that we had some hosts that were potentially compromised. Now, these hosts were attempting to very rapidly send information to servers in Ukraine, China, Russia, places that they had no business communicating with. We figured that we had on our hands a bad stuff situation, and we needed to get our arms wrapped around it pretty quickly and be able to answer some key questions to it. My boss dove down the network side, looking at NetFlow, firewall logs, things like that, while I started on systems, doing some triage, memory dumps and analysis, and started imaging hard drives. Unfortunately, I got nothing from the triage, I got nothing from the RAM. I said, well, okay, I'm not Corey Harrell, I'm not Andrew Case, I'm going to set that stuff aside for the moment and do what I know well, which is timelines. At least that way, maybe I can make Kristen proud of me. So, using intel that we had from DLP, I started grepping out sections of timelines that we figured were going to be more relevant for what we needed. Also cutting down from millions of rows to hundreds of thousands of rows. Load that into, of all things, Excel. Let Excel churn on it for a little bit, and then prepare to do some of the visualization stuff. Now, what can Excel do for me there? It's really very simple. Using the date field in the timeline, I create a pivot table. What that does for me is it allows me to see the activity on the system going across a period of time. I get to see the baseline, the normal ebb and flow of activity, and look something like this. We're looking for these kinds of anomalies, all right? Other than the ebb and flow, you see a huge spike, you see a huge drop, you've got something that you need to dig into further. That's what we're going to do here. We now know that, this one date is obviously a key thing. We're going to drill into that. We're not done with the visualization yet, though. On that day, we're going to create another pivot table, and this one is going to focus on time, looking for the same sort of anomalies, and we end up with this. So in the roughly 3 minutes between 9:01 and 9:04 a.m., we've got almost 11,000 events. On this last one, we had almost 70,000 out of an average of 1,700 per day. So we're now down to almost 11,000. That's where we need to start drilling in. Now, that's probably not the point of infection, and it's not. That's actually associated registry changes. So we're going to dive in here, look at the actual raw timeline data, but it's not going to make our eyes bleed because we've gone from millions of rows to hundreds of thousands to 70,000 to now maybe 10,000 rows of data that we've got to look at. We're going to look for anomalies there, and they actually will pop out at us, kind of like these two DLLs here. Suspicious from the get-go, they're both the key to the malware. They were found on every single system that was compromised. Hashes were always the same, names sometimes changed. There was also some MFT manipulation that we got to see in the timeline as well. Kind of like with these JPEGs here. Same JPEG showed up on every system, and you see over there on the right with the timeline or MFT manipulation on them, and also the same Facebook URLs on every single system. So now we've got some info that we can take back to our RAM analysis. We've got the binaries that we can start to do static analysis on, or any kind of reverse engineering we want to do. And we've got more info for the RAM. As it turns out, we had to recapture RAM on these systems because the malware only ran under the user that was logged in at the time that the system got popped. So that kind of impacted our ability to do things in a normal way. Anyway, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I'm here all week. I find the technique helpful. I hope others do as well. And if you can't talk to me while I'm here, you can certainly find me online. My contact information is there. Or maybe not. So, hey, no one thinks. Thank you very much.